You're the guy people call when they need a helping hand, moving furniture, unloading a truck. But lately, your shoulder's been acting up, and you're the one who's calling for help. And that's the moment you realize you can no longer shoulder the load.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care, with a range of surgical and non-surgical treatments. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 660, Financial Fitness with Dustin Martin.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I am Amanda Valentine. My guest today, who has a disclaimer that he's going to read. You know it's going to be a good podcast.
I do.
When there is a legal disclaimer involved.
Everyone's turning it off right now.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, what kind of conversations are we getting into? Is Dustin Martin. So do I say that you're from Raymond James or Cincinnati Wealth Management Advisors, or both?
That's a great question. It's Cincinnati Wealth Management Advisors of Raymond James.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
mouthful.
Okay, is that part of the disclaimer?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and knock that out real quick.
The platform is yours. Take it away.
So Dustin Martin's a financial advisor with Raymond James and Associates. We're located at 9999 Carver Road, Suite 150 in Cincinnati, Ohio, 45242. You can contact me and my team at 513-762-5150. Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC. Done.
Yay!
I just imagine that getting played at like 5 times speed.
Every skip.
Oh yeah, the 15 seconds.
Yeah, right. Or your company is going to isolate that and then just haunt you with it at like company Christmas parties and stuff like that.
I'm joking to my company if you're listening. We're obviously going to listen. We're not going to provide any specific recommendations. We're keeping it high level.
Yes. We're making generalizations about financial advice. Is that a good way to put it?
Hyper vague.
Right. Well, one of the reasons that we want to have this conversation is, well, one, we're sitting at the gym right now together recording at Cincy 360 Fitness, and you are a client here and you train with Josh.
That's right.
And how long have you been coming working out here?
So I met Josh and started coming here about a year ago. So great timing. It was literally like 3 weeks before COVID. Shut everything down, including the gym.
Yeah.
So I live up the road here in Columbia, Tusculum. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but basically, I was drawn to the gym because I wanted to work out with somebody personally, and Josh took me on and became friends pretty quickly. A lot in common, similar sense of humor, and that's how I learned about you. I listened to Josh on your podcast.
The great episodes with Josh Garrett.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, it's funny because I have had conversations in the past about doing episodes about financial health. And especially like you and I have chatted, discussing recording this podcast of just the similarities even between like physical fitness and financial fitness, and how, there's just so many similarities of like, even just thinking of like consistency and being in the mind space for it, because both are important to some level. And I think that, again, because we're going to have to speak in broad strokes here, that, everybody is all over the map financially.
Right.
And that's also one of those conversations that's hush, hush and taboo of to not tell anybody how much you make or where you're investing your money. And so I feel like whenever the general, populace, we're not discussing these things with each other, then you're like, I don't even know what to do, or do I even make enough money to have like a financial planner? Like, I ain't rich. And
yeah, when I'm with my friends, I'm not like, what do I do about this high blood pressure? We don't talk about our personal, health problems. You don't talk about it. There's a level of vulnerability, I think. And it is kind of taboo. People don't talk about it.
Well, and it's overwhelming. Like, it's one of those things that almost feels, but this is from my perspective, it almost feels like designed to confuse you. at certain points, like especially like the stock market
Super
and stuff like
jargony.
that. Yeah, of like I don't know what's going on. I don't know where to put my money or what this means. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like I think at least for myself, it's like one of those things of like, I don't even have the brain space to want to sit down and dig into this and figure this all out for myself.
Yep.
So, that's where I would come to someone like you, which I have because, having a 401k when I was at the radio station and that going away when I started my own thing of like, well, what do I do with this now? How do I maximize this? Thinking of retirement, but also as a parachute of like, okay, I need that money. Things are, going bad, as we've seen with a global pandemic and people losing their jobs and weird financial situations with businesses closing in the past year, where people, I feel like, are reaching out for some sort of financial help of, okay, or maybe I found myself in a sticky situation this time. Okay, now that I've climbed out on the other side of it, how do I make sure that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I think it's top of mind for a lot of people. And I think another challenge that I know I had, and I think a lot of people have, is who are all of these people that are financial professionals? Mm-hmm. Like everyone knows somebody that works in finance, but it could be an insurance company, it could be an investment bank, it could be a bank, a local bank, and everyone has different roles and serves different clientele. And then there's all this different language like wealth management and financial planning, and I think it's confusing, and people have their guard up a lot of times with financial planners. You had made the joke, like the first time we talked, you thought of, I think you said used car salesman.
Yeah, because you just feel like, like what are you going to try to talk me into and put my money into? You know what I mean? Of just because I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not in that world.
And to a degree, this industry's earned some of that. There's a lot of bad apples, like with any profession. But there's some very public ones with finance, the Bernie Madoffs and those types that, you hear nightmare stories of people getting, their money gambled away and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But, what we're trying to do is find a good used car for people at their price point. No, I'm just kidding. We're not actually selling, but,
you slap the hood on it.
Yeah, exactly.
You want this financial planning? This bad boy right here.
Yeah. And we're trying to, we've got to fight that sometimes. But I think for the most part, people understand we have their best interest in mind, especially if, when you're looking for a financial advisor or a financial planner, or whatever title you want to slap on it, there's certain things you want to look for. Credentials are important, like when you're hiring a personal trainer, right? There's a certain level of competency that you need to have, and you go through some training and certifications to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And in our industry, there's license that are kind of table stakes. Everyone has. But beyond that, the certified financial planner designation is kind of the high mark in our industry for financial planning. There's others that are specific to like investment management. But if it's, I need to sit down and look at what are my goals, what's my current situation, what do I need to be doing right now to get to where I want to be, that's generally a certified financial planner that you're looking for. Holds us to a fiduciary standard, which is important.
Oh, what a fancy word.
Yeah, you like that?
So impressed.
So
that wasn't even part of the disclaimer. They didn't even write that out for you.
Yeah, right. But and that's been a hot topic in our industry for the last couple of years, if you can believe it. Up until a couple of years ago, there was some regulation that basically wants to hold financial advisors to a fiduciary standard, which just means we have to act in clients' best interests.
Yeah.
Which seems obvious that we should have to do that. But
that's where the used cars salesman thing comes in, because not everybody abides by those rules, it feels like. And that's true of any industry, I feel.
Sure.
I mean, it's personal trainers too. There's personal trainers that are supposed to have your best interest.
Yep.
And they don't.
But are they selling a product at the end of the day? Mm-hmm. And you've got to be able to see through that a little bit. And that's where it becomes really challenging for, I think, consumers is, you can name 50 different companies. We joked about they all sound the same.
Yeah.
Right? The Edward Jones, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Raymond
like rich
James.
Dude names.
It's just, yeah, exactly. So, I think there's some research, but hopefully conversations like this help, just to clear things up for people.
Yeah. So for you, like, how did you get interested in this arena? Like, what's your background? And then to jump off of that, then like, what does your day-to-day look like now?
Yeah. Well, the background and how I got into this, I wish I had like this great story of, I was inspired by something, but I think at the end of the day, I'm from Franklin, Ohio, which if you're not familiar is right by Middletown. It's maybe 30, 40 minutes north of here. And I told you, if you read Hillbilly Elegy, it's basically that part of the country, right? So, I had great parents. They were very supportive. They gave me everything that I needed and probably wanted. But, looking back, I think they made a lot of sacrifices for themselves to, make sure, I felt comfortable. And, I think money was probably a big point of stress in our household.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if subconsciously I just thought I want to pick a career that gives me financial security. And my first job, real job out of college or out of high school, in the summers when I was in college, was a teller at a bank. And I honestly, if I'm looking back, I think when I was 19, I thought if you had a professional outfit on and you worked at a bank, that meant you'd make good money or that you'd, have some kind of financial security. So that was my first job. And then I picked finance as a major in college. Again, I can't remember exactly why, other than I probably thought that would set me up for success in that way. But in college, I had an internship when I was at UC. It was a part of their co-op program. But for basically 2 years, I got paired with a team at Raymond James. This was 3 advisors, and I was just doing some kind of support stuff for them. But I learned pretty quickly that, they're working with a couple hundred families in Cincinnati doing full financial planning, which would be anything from, helping them plan for retirement, helping their kids save for college, budget management. It was anything financial you could think of they're doing for these people. And what I learned was that it was super comprehensive and that these were more than just professional relationships. Like, you're intimately involved in these people's lives, and it's a very deep, there's these conversations in these meetings. Like we just talked about, finances are a very, there's a level of vulnerability you have to get into that. And once you earn somebody's trust and they feel like you understand them, these meetings are pretty intimate, and it was really rewarding, really cool. I saw that they would, they're going to graduation parties and funerals, and, a lot of times they're the first person that somebody talks to after a family member passes away. And it's, these were close relationships, and I wanted to do that. I realized that this wasn't just banking and this wasn't transactional. They saw these guys as, a part of their circle, right? People they could trust and connect with. Like, I feel that way about Josh. And, at the end of the day, I want somebody who I feel like understands what my needs are, what's important to me. And then I can go to them with an issue that I'm having, and it's not a transaction, right? Yeah. So I graduated from UC. I went to Fidelity Investments, which is a big national company, like 40,000 employees. And I went there because I just wanted to get experience. I wanted to get all the credentials. I didn't feel super comfortable just diving right in, meeting people face to face when I've never done this. I wanted to kind of step in the shallow end, not dive straight in. So I did that for 5 years. I was an advisor servicing a bunch of different people, and it was high volume. I basically got a lot of reps, but I never got to build real long-term relationships with these people. It was kind of just churning and we were doing good work. We weren't selling stuff. But I wanted to ultimately join a practice where, we earn their trust. We take our time with them, and then we work with them as long as they want to work with us. These are a lot of times lifelong relationships. So the group I had interned for had a guy retire. He was in his 70s, and when he retired, they took on his clients and didn't have the capacity. So brought me in, and I rejoined the guys that I had interned with, and so that's who I'm working with now.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So every day, what does your day look like dealing with people, since that's what you wanted to do?
Yep. It's, I would say about half of the day or the week is just servicing existing clients. People, when you're working with a couple hundred clients, they need money, they have questions, they're doing their taxes, they just have questions, and we're just responding to those and handling those requests. And then the other half is actually conducting meetings. So for most clients, twice a year, we're having meetings with them to review their plan and review their investments and update them and get updates from them on their situation. So we're actually conducting those. Those are usually like an hour. And we'll do maybe 6 or 7 of those a week, each of us.
So if there's somebody like listening to this and they're thinking, well, I don't know. I think when you hear the word like wealth management, you think that you have some already like big old chunk of money, like that you need to be at this level already in order to play in this arena. I mean, can anybody come to you and just be like, hey, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. How can I make this a little bit better for me?
Yeah. So I wouldn't be, I mean, I know people are intimidated by it. And like you said, I think our industry does a pretty bad job of it. It's almost like it's intentional. The commercials are all gray-haired people on the beach or aboarding a yacht, and it's like, okay, who's this for?
I watch CBS Sunday Morning, and that's all that is like.
Yeah, like it's like if you want to see our advertisements, turn on the golf channel or turn on the tennis channel. But that's what's interesting is our clients are not. If you looked under the hood of our practice, a lot of advisors are going to tell you they have some kind of niche they work with, and some do. And there are unique planning needs for doctors and for small business owners and retirees. But for the most part, practices are very diverse. It is, we have clients that are doctors and business owners. That's a big portion of them. But we have clients that are 25 years old and that, it's engineers, it's artists. I mean, so, and the income spectrum is very wide too, right? It's, and we'll maybe get into this, but, being wealthy or whatever that means, it's not defined by a level of income or a level of assets, truly. It's, there's people that have household incomes of $80,000 that are they're set up better for success than, couples that are doctors and have $800,000 of household income. At the end of the day, if you got to spend less than you make, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to put money away. And you can do that at any level of income, and you can plan. You're going to want to do things in the future. Everyone will. Yeah. And those things are going to cost money. And so if you're constantly just spending everything you make, you're never getting ahead, and you're going to constantly feel like you're chasing. So I would say it's not, don't be turned off by thinking you don't make enough or thinking that you don't have enough saved. Some places have minimums, but find out what they are. A lot of places are super flexible with that. And even if they do have, like, their firm has a minimum of assets, I know us, and, we don't have like a hard minimum, by the way. So people shouldn't be worried about not coming to us for that, but people are going to do a good job of finding you a place that will work. And I would just say reach out. There's no obligation for any of these places for the most part. Yeah. And I would say, just like, even for me in my experience, it's just like making your money work for you. I feel like that's what, when you look into people that, do well with the stock market or wealth and stuff like that, it's because they know how to, like, use their money to make them money. You know what I mean? Yep. And so it's like, okay, well, and that's where I would talk to somebody that knows what they're doing, like you, of like, okay, how do I make my money work best for me? And even with me going through this transition personally, so I had my 401k and then I had a savings, which, P.S., when I moved to Cincinnati in 2015, I had no savings account. Like, yep. I mean, I just made no money in radio for so long that I just didn't have a savings account. So I was very fortunate enough to be able to start a savings account that was able to leave my job so I could have this savings account to come off of. But when I was talking to my financial advisor, which just happens to be from Fidelity because that's what my 401k was through, and he was talking to me about, like, oh, well, you shouldn't just keep this money in a checking account and a savings account. Like, this money can make you money. Yep. And for me, I'm just hyped to have a savings account. You know what I mean? Like, yep. But then, that's just where it's like, well, I don't know how that system works. But it's like, that's what I'm here for. Like, let me take this money that you have and let
that money make you money. So again, for your future. And
Right.
I mean, yeah, kind of idea of having a 401k and leading me in the right direction of what do I do with this now? And where does this best, maximize my effort and my goals of, do I want to retire or when do I need it? Of like, just all stuff like that of, I don't know. It's just a different, because I grew up with like no money. And so this was never a conversation to think about money making you more money. And so I don't know. I think that's just such an important topic where even somebody who might be listening to this, like, yeah, that's stupid, Amanda. How did you not know that? But
no, and that's one of the biggest conversations we've had in probably the last 3 months with clients, with prospective clients, is that there is a lot of money in cash right now in savings accounts. They're between stimulus. So some people have gotten money there. But also just with the pandemic, a lot of people didn't travel last year. They didn't go out to eat as much. They didn't, socialize, just buy tickets to concerts.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing a lot of people that have this feeling of, okay, I do have some savings, which is great. But do I have too much in savings actually? Like, am I leaving money on the table by having this much in there? Should I? And that's where you've got to sit down and figure out, generally the advice is you need to look at your budget and figure out what are my essential expenses, and truly essential expenses. The things where if you lost your job and had no income, you have to pay those things.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say that number's $3,000. I'd target having 3 to 6 months worth of that money in your savings account.
Okay.
As a goal. Maybe 6 on the high end. Some people want to be super conservative and have 9 months or 12 months, which is fine. But if you're pretty comfortable that you could find a job and get income, even around 3 months might be reasonable. But after that, typically you can invest that money, and it doesn't have to be tied up for retirement. It could be more conservatively invested than your retirement money, which is more long term.
Mm-hmm.
But those conversations are happening a lot right now. And so if anybody's listening, that might hit home for some people.
So what are some that you have seen common financial mistakes people make? Is it that of not letting money or burying it in the backyard instead of letting it work for you? Or what kind of mistakes do you see often?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's maybe just a lack of organization. It's
hey, I'm right there. I mean, I don't budget, and I know that's terrible, and I don't know.
It's not fun.
No, it's not.
It's terrible to do.
Yeah.
It takes a level of holding yourself accountable, which is challenging.
Yeah.
You talk about the parallels between financial planning and, me coming here twice a week.
Well, just even with me with food, I know how meticulous I am with that, and I will have a plan, and I'm all about it. But when it comes to financial stuff,
well, and there's people that probably look at your habits with the meal prep and think there's no way I could do that.
Yeah,
it gives me anxiety to just think about it,
mm-hmm.
or to track your calories and that type of
yeah.
thing. But what you should challenge yourself to do, if you were running a business, successful businesses can account for every dollar that comes in and every dollar that goes out. They don't just blindly have revenue and then money go, so you should think about trying to do the same thing. I mean, and it doesn't have to be super granular where, down to the penny.
Yeah.
But in general, most people know how much they make.
Yeah.
But then if you ask, where does the money go? That's where, you get the deer in headlights, right? I mean, a lot, and that's tough.
Yeah.
So, you develop a process. It's going to be different for everybody. Some people can use those apps like, Mint and other things that we're not affiliated with Mint. That's just
another disclaimer.
But there's apps that track your spending,
okay.
And they'll try to categorize your different expenses. And I've had trouble with those just because they always get them wrong.
You're definitely not affiliated with Mint now.
But you'll buy something at a gas station. It's saying you're buying gas, that type of thing. So
was it linked to your card or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just use an Excel sheet basically. Once a month, I pull up my my charges, and I just try to put them in buckets. Food, shopping, entertainment.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get to that point, to be honest. I mean, but now we're better at it. My wife and I, and we, just have a general idea. And it doesn't mean you have to make any changes right away. Just start by seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
And then you can try to see what trends there are. And okay, this month we spent a lot on gifts, but it was December, so that's common. And then try starting there.
I think I will just say from my own fear of that is I know I spend too much money on things like coffee. Like, I'm aware, but I'm like, I don't want to know because I enjoy it. You know what I mean? It's like a thing that feels like a reward for me, and I love it. And if I knew how much I was spending, I would just handcuff myself and take it away from me, and then it feels like punishment. And so I'm like, I would rather not know and live in ignorance.
I love Jenny's ice
coffee.
cream.
Oh yeah, that's money too.
And it's another one of those. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to not know what's in a pint.
Oh yeah.
But
and also like $8 a pint, but it's so good. I mean, it's so worth it.
Sponsor the show.
I mean, for sure. Yeah, they just came out with the Dolly Parton ice cream that shut their website down.
Yeah.
So, Jenny's come this way. I mean, if I'm gonna eat ice cream, this is a total tangent into health and fitness here. I mean, I've been on a Halo Top kick and stuff like that before, but now where I'm at, I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, let's do it. And Jenny's is the freaking best. I mean, I love graters too. I'm not shaming graters here or anything, but it's again, where it's $8 a pint, where you're like, oof. I could get some crappy Breyers for $1, but it's it's not the same. And so again, where you're investing your money and also in my head, if I'm going to eat ice cream, I'm going to do the good stuff and not just half-ass myself.
Well, and I think to the point you just made, that's why I said don't beat yourself up over what you find out by doing it. Just do it and just see. And it's the same thing with if you were going to track your macronutrients and stuff. Start off by just seeing where you're at.
Yeah.
Don't commit to I'm never going to eat a carb again, because that's just not realistic. And I actually hate I see on Instagram or wherever, did you know if you didn't buy coffee every day, it would add up to this over 30 years? It's
it bums you out.
It does. And it's people don't want to be told make sacrifices, don't enjoy your life now so that you can enjoy it when you're 62 and buy an RV or whatever.
You don't want to go without your Jenny's ice cream until you retire.
No, and I don't live that way. I mean, my wife and I like to travel. We like to enjoy things. But I think what you have to do is just say, here are the things we do. And you don't know until you look at it all. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you can say, okay, what brings us joy and what are we going to prioritize? Because you're going to find that there's things in there that you're fine with cutting back on. And maybe it's not the coffee. You can buy the coffee every day.
Yeah.
But if you don't know where it's going, you're never going to be able to have that conversation. And so for us, it was we do want to go on trips. We're, I'm 30 and, we don't have kids yet. So we just want to do some stuff and enjoy our life.
Yeah.
And we had to figure out where to make sacrifices other places so that we can do that. But I don't feel like we're, cutting back in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, because I feel at least for me too, when you think financial planning, all this stuff, you do think, or just even when people think of living a healthy lifestyle, you immediately go to diet. What are you restricting me on?
Yeah,
what are
never
you taking
gonna eat
away
chicken
from
wings
me?
again in my life.
Right. And so I think that's kind of, again, another parallel of that, of just oh, well, you're going to tell me, again, save your money and don't buy, the dumb crap that you like.
No, that's exactly, and then for younger clients, especially, I think people understand retirement's important, but our industry also just sells retirement. You've got to just be putting your money away, retirement. And people just shut down to that. They're I'm 35 or I'm 40. Yeah, I'm going to retire. I want to be able to retire, but I also want to do other things. I want to maybe help my kids with college, or I want to, do something, start a business, buy a new home, buy a second home. And so I think our advisors should do a better job, and I'm trying to, of helping people prioritize their goals and save for multiple goals and work toward them, simultaneously, not just say, well, every extra dollar you have needs to go to your 401k or needs to go to retirement, because that, it's not real life. And retirement for people my age, and I think it looks different. than it probably traditionally will. Retirement traditionally was like, it's going to be 100% vocation and then 100% vacation. It's just cold turkey. You're going to stop working.
Get an RV.
You're going to leave it, for where we're from, a lot of my family, it's AK Steel. You get your pension, and then you're done. And that's great. But for people our age, there's probably not going to have a pension. They hardly exist. So you're going to live off your own savings, which is your retirement accounts or whatever accounts you're using to save. But it's going to be complemented for a lot of people by income, either part-time work. A lot of people go back to work after they retire. They find that, they've been sold this Adirondack chair that they're going to sit in the beach for 20 hours a day for 30 years. And then in reality, you get bored and you want to do stuff and have a purpose.
My mom's actually doing that. When COVID started, she's got a bunch of health issues. So when COVID started, she retired. She works in a hospital. But now that she's fully vaccinated, she's like, I'm going to go back part-time. I've been sitting in the house being retired of like, get me the hell out of here.
You got to have, they say, you got to have enough money so that you can sleep at night. And you've got to have enough purpose to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And if you have one or the other, without the other, you're going to be in trouble. And that's why there's psychologists or therapists that deal specifically with these retired white-collar CEOs because, they made a living with their gray matter. They're not doing physical labor. And you used to retire because you physically had to.
Yeah.
Now it's not that way. If if you're a podcaster or you do something where you can work, a lot of people are going to work longer and not because it's a financial matter, just because they want to. But the challenge with the people that go back to work is you set up this plan to save all this money so that you could stop cold turkey, right? Mm-hmm. But if you had known you were going to go back and work part-time, you probably could have went part-time sooner because now you have this income. Your plan was set up thinking you'll have no income. You're just going to retire cold turkey.
Yeah.
So you got to be, if you're planning that way, you give yourself more options and more flexibility. Like instead of saying, Amanda, you're going to retire at 65, we're going to set up a plan so that you can get $80,000 a year from your 401k. But then you're going to work. You don't need $80,000. You need $60,000. Well, you could have retired at 60, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of planning I'm talking about. It's not just picking stocks and bonds. It's really trying to help people set some goals, and then they're going to change. So that's why it's an ongoing process.
Well, and I think even too, the narrative is, especially, people, in my 30s, my age group and my friends are like, don't even think retirement isn't even an option. It's like, you know what I mean? Of like, it's just kind of, the look on your face, I'm curious to hear your answer to that, but it's like, with the state of things and, it doesn't feel like it used to be like you get your good job and you're there until you're done. You know what I mean? Like it's just so ever changing and flipping around. Does it feel like, is this even an option? But I guess maybe I'm going to answer my own question here. Is it more of just doing that planning so your retirement is on your terms versus your employer's terms?
That's 100% true. It is going to be on your terms. Again, nobody's probably going to give you a pension. Unless you're a teacher, you work for the government, there's obviously exceptions. But I think a similarity to fitness and health is that for a lot of people, it's an all or nothing proposition. I know I've had that problem with eating healthy where I'm either eating healthy or I'm not eating healthy, and there's no in between. Yeah. It is like whole pizza or, carb free or whatever. Yeah. So, right. And people do that with their financial matters. I think they saw some commercial at one point that said like, what's your number? And they saw some $1 million something number. And then they're doing the math in their head real quick. And they're like, well, I'm not going to hit $2 million or $1 million. So I'm not going to make it. So why would I take my extra money that I have and put it in this account? I'm just going to spend it.
I've definitely thought that before.
But we just, as we talked about, it's not an all or nothing. There's going to be some hybrid where you have some savings that gives you some income, and then you maybe work and have some income. And that's probably going to be a more joyful, healthier lifestyle than I have no savings and I'm working because I have to work. Yeah. That's stressful.
Yeah. I will say, just from being more of that mindset and not having any sort of financial plan to the point where I am now, not that I'm like a financial rock star, but, having savings, having an IRA or whatever we switched it to, and having those sorts of things does relieve a very big part of stress.
Yep.
Because, whenever everything is, are the lights going to get shut off because I don't know how to, I don't know how to manage my money in the correct way, to, okay, somebody's helping me with this. And again, like so much of my podcast too, is I talk about just ask for help if you need it, which I did. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. I don't want to live in this constant state of fear or scarcity or what the hell's going to happen to me next, or, can't even really plan for the future because there is no plan. And so going from that even to just the level I am now, is just, it's just so much stress and more peace of mind of enjoying your life more, or at least for me, enjoying my life more, because part of that, it's not exactly where I would like it to be. We could all use more money, right?
Sure.
But it's at least not everything. I'm sitting in a burning room. You know what I mean?
You put a lot of pressure on your job and your income if you don't have any type of backup.
Yeah.
And that's unhealthy in a lot of different ways, mentally, physically, financially. But, you made a good point about the asking for help. It's, we tell our clients this all the time. Again, these are a lot of times it's either retired or working professionals. They do something way better than we would do that, whether it's an engineer or an architect or whatever. But these are people that are smart enough to figure out their own money and investing. And I truly believe that. Like, and we tell them that, like, you could do this. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
We don't have this wisdom, but we spend all day doing it. We've done it for hundreds or thousands of other people. And for these people, I think they've come to the conclusion, I either don't have the time, I don't have the desire, or maybe it's the skill to do it on my own. And it's worth delegating that part of my life because it's such an important part.
Yeah.
Right. Like what I'm doing with Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I was a high school athlete. I mean, I joked with him. I don't pay him because I don't know how to count to 10 while I'm holding a kettlebell.
Yeah.
I can do that. I'm sure of it, but I need accountability. And for a long time, I would go to the gym and I would just do the stuff I'm good at. I would avoid the stuff I don't like doing. And I knew I was doing it wrong, but it took a while for me to just say, you know what, I'm going to maybe pay a little bit of a premium here, but it's absolutely worth it. And I think it's similar with these people, and there's an emotional component. It's a very emotional thing to manage your own money and talk about money, especially if you're in a household with a spouse and kids. Just like you wouldn't perform surgery on yourself. Yeah. You might want a third party, objective, arbiter in the room to help give advice and guidance, because otherwise, if it's just you or just you and your spouse, you might make a mistake potentially.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, and again, tying it back to personal training of it, sometimes it's hard to just see you as a whole, you know what I mean? And what's best for you. So to have those outside eyes and be like, oh, well, I see that your body is moving this way, and I think this would work best. This works best with your personality, what you would stick to. Here's a program, here's a plan that I made specifically for you and who I think you are and what you need. And that in itself is just stress relieving. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, I can stop worrying of, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing this wrong? Am I doing this enough? Am I doing this too much? Of like, no, I'm going to pay somebody to figure that out for me. And then the results will come because I trust this person because they know what they're doing because they do it all day.
Yeah. And the longer you work with that person, the more beneficial it's going to become because they now know your history. They know how you've reacted during certain moments in your life. They're going to be able to maybe know you as well as you do or better because they're a third party. Like when we go through these just last year, the markets in February when COVID first hit, sold off by like 30, 40% in a really short amount of time. And that's very dramatic for a lot of people that have money invested. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, it was kind of 2008 was the big financial crisis that everyone remembers. And you hear horror stories of people that were about to retire and they lost all this money, right? And it takes a long time to recover. But the benefit of going through that with a client is that you've gone through it together. They had somebody to talk them through it. And then now there's kind of a mutual trust in that, we've been through this type of thing before.
Yeah.
So when it happens next time, so if you're doing it on your own, again, it's very easy. It's easier than ever to go online if you manage your own account and click a button and either get out of the market or change things around. There's no kind of gatekeeper to talk you off the ledge.
Yeah.
I've talked to Josh a lot about it that, with fitness, there's more information online and on social media now than there's ever been, I would argue. And that's great in a way because it's more accessible for people, but it's also intimidating and overwhelming, and you don't know who to turn to.
Yeah.
It's not in the financial industry. It's not just the Wall Street Journal and Barron's and these traditional news outlets. It's like there are blogs. I mean, famously this year, Reddit became very influential in the financial markets, and it's a group of people talking online about it. And so now more than ever, I think people are online trying to learn, and it can be overwhelming. So I think having an actual person to be able to go to and sort through some of this is great.
Yeah, well, not only overwhelming, but it's what is great or what is good for you specifically. Like there's people that can crush it doing keto or intermittent fasting or any of those things, but will that work for you? So it's like you can get all that information online and you can try it. And if it doesn't work for you, then you're going to label yourself as a failure. It's like, no, maybe that just wasn't the right thing for you. Or the same thing of like, I mean, if I just started looking online and read about stocks or what I was supposed to do with financial stuff, and I pulled something from some source and I did it and it backfired on me, I'm more likely to never do it again. Right. You know what I mean? So it's just that same kind of tie-in. And I don't know if this question, if you want to answer it, or if the disclaimer covers it. You're like, oh God, what is she going to ask me? But like, what do you think of people like Dave Ramsey?
Actually just talked to a client about this 2 days ago. They subscribe to, I think the principles are great. And honestly, if you're consuming that content, whether it's Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman or any of these public figures that, a lot of it is just be debt free, how to get yourself out of debt, how to budget.
Yeah.
Dave's very specific on like, you have the envelopes and you go get cash from the bank and you set it aside. And that, some of it I think I could, would disagree with on like the never having debt and prioritizing just paying that off. I mean, it's okay to have debt a lot of times, especially when we have historically low interest rates. I wouldn't say, just go pay your house off, number one priority over investing anything. But
yeah.
I think in general that stuff's good. Again, it's not going to be specific to you, like you just pointed out. He's got a big audience. And he admits that it's, that you should still get one-on-one coaching in his case, because somebody needs to find out more about you, what your values are, what's important to you, what your goals are, and put together a plan that's tailored to that, not just this broad-based advice.
Yeah, and I'll say I had a former coworker that was way into Dave Ramsey, and to the point where it's like he wasn't even like living a life. You know what I mean? Like so afraid to spend a dime anywhere. Like wouldn't go out with friends. Like, hey, you want to come out for a beer tonight? No.
Did they drive $1,000 car?
No, but like a car basically until it died. I mean, which is fine. I do that too. But like, yeah, it was, one of those things of like, okay, I'm like, that's great. That's awesome. Like financial plan, but like, damn, you're taking that to an extreme where it's like, you don't even want to go grab a beer after work. Like, whoa.
And that's the part that I think I struggle with a little bit is I want there to be some kind of balance and like enjoying your life now and in the future. And I think you can do both. I don't think you have to live this super frugal lifestyle, make all these sacrifices so that when you're 65, you can do
then
all
you
these
can
things.
live your life. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
just
like,
what kind of trade-off is that?
Yeah, right.
Would anyone exchange 30 years of their life for $500,000 or $1 million? It's like, if I gave you that offer, no way you would take it. I don't think.
No.
So,
and I feel like I'm pretty busted now. I can't imagine how busted I'll be at 65. Like I got to spend this money while I'm still able.
no, exactly. When you retire, it's like there's these terms of like you have your go-go years, which are the first X amount of years in retirement. Then it's the slow-go years where you like don't do as much, and then it's the no-go years where so when you're,
that's if you're lucky.
Exactly. Yeah. That you're right. And what a bummer to just sock all this money away all this time. And I don't know about you, but I've driven bad cars, and the peace of mind of knowing my car's not going to break down every time I drive it around is worth whatever amount of money to me. I don't drive like luxury cars by any means, but I don't know that I could do the super beater. Yeah.
I mean, I did my very first car. I had an 81 Dodge Aries, and it would break down. I mean, my car was awesome. Total side note, I had a squirt gun built into it. So like it came, you couldn't see it, but out of the front of the grill of the car. And then I had a cord inside with a red button that would also read to the back seat. So whenever you would press it, it would squirt 20 feet out the front of the car, and you'd let go, it stopped. So we would like cruise Walmart parking lots and just get people when they were coming out of the store. And by the time they looked, we'd let go of the button. So, I mean, my car was awesome, but also I would die at stop signs in really scary neighborhoods. And, my cell phone at the time was like a brick phone with, my Ameritech minutes.
Was it a Nokia?
This was before the Nokia.
Oh, man.
Because how old are you?
Virgin Mobile? No, I'm 30.
Because I'm 38. So I had an older phone before you. No, I had a Nokia. I got... The Nokia was my personal first cell phone, really, that I paid for, and that was Singular at the time, which was bought up by AT&T when I was in college. But before that, like senior year in high school, you could get it was an Ameritech phone. It was not the huge 80s phone, but it was big enough where it had the weird flip down to talk into.
Oh yeah,
and the big plastic antenna that would come out the top. And you would have a card with so many minutes on it. And I'm glad that I had it because my car broke down so damn much in the middle of the night, leaving friends' houses or in dangerous neighborhoods, because that's what I had to go do to meet my boyfriend at the time. That we're having a car now. I lease a car now because I'm at least I'm covered if that's a good question. Is that a financial stupid thing to do? Is have a lease instead of buying a car?
Okay, that's a good question. But also, you did have a sense of security. You had to feel safe that you had the squirt gun on the front.
I mean, no. No. I think that says a lot about me that I had that in high school. I also always kept an air horn in my car. We just never knew that when you had to scare somebody, see if they would fall off their skateboard when you drove past.
What was the last thing that you heard from? It was an air horn. She blew the air horn right before the lease versus buy. It's tough. I've leased a car, so I can't, and for me at the time, it made sense. I was right out of college. I didn't have a ton of income. I wanted a reliable car because it was after my first car, which, was like smoking every other time I drove it.
What was it?
It was a Ford Explorer 02.
Okay.
Base model.
Nice. Got them roll down windows.
Yeah.
The hand crank. Or did you not have a hand crank?
No, but we did have a cassette player.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I wonder what was in that when I turned it in, now that I'm thinking about it. Jock jams, maybe?
Oh, my God.
I don't know.
That's awesome. Jock jams.
Yeah, but so I think it does. I think there's times it makes sense. I'm not going to say. Some people are so adamant about one or the other. You hear a lot of the never lease a car.
Yeah, right?
Okay, but I know super wealthy people that lease cars. We have clients that do that. I think for some people, I don't want to have to service my car. You never have to worry about it. I mean, truly, you have to get oil changes and stuff.
Well, except in my case, somebody scraped up the side of it, and that's going to ding me.
Really?
Because when you go to turn it back in, then if you jack that car up, past a certain dollar amount to fix it, then you get charged.
Oh.
Because I can't help somebody sideswipe my car at Kroger or wherever they did it.
Right. Huh. I figured there'd be some warranty or something.
There is. I don't know. Maybe it'll be fine. I did though. I didn't want insurance to mess with this one, but one of my neighbor's tree branches did fall on my hood last year and dented the hell out of it. So that I had insurance fixed. That's something where I'm like, oh God, I can't turn this back into Mazda like this. But
I think there's cases where people lease a car maybe for the wrong reasons. They want to get like the Tesla or like the Suburban with 91 seats in it. And it's like the only way we could afford it is if we lease it. And it's like, well,
if you're shooting a rap video or something, then
you do.
then you need like a large cool car.
Have you seen the famous the stuff on there's a documentary about fake influencing where like people you can rent like a jet for like an hour to get like photos done on it.
Yeah,
and stuff.
You have the big blingy watch and all that stuff.
That's on a different episode.
Oh my God, I do kind of want to watch that. It's like a different version of the Fry Festival.
Yeah, exactly. It's just all fake. But I think if you're doing it so that you can get this like luxury car that you couldn't afford to buy, that's probably a problem.
Okay.
But if it's just like, hey, I can get a Honda Accord at $200 a month, and like my situation might be different 3 years from now than it is today, then great. Go ahead and take advantage of it. You can either buy the car at the end of it or turn it back in. But yeah, I mean, most of the time cars become worthless at some point.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people say they're going to buy a car and I'm going to drive it till the wheels fall off. And then some new camera comes out on the new car 3 years later and they don't like that old car anymore.
Yeah.
And they go and they end up buying one anyway. So there's some like math you can run to probably tell you there's a break-even point. I think a lot of times people don't keep their cars as long as they intend to when they buy them.
Yeah, I have though. I had a Mazda Protege I literally beat the hell out of and sold that when I got to Oregon because there's no sales tax. So then I got to save several thousand. And then I have another car other than my lease that I've just beat the hell out of too. So I try to do that anyway. And I'm like, I think that's just, again, kind of growing up in the scarcity thing of you don't have the option to go dump a bunch of money into a new car.
Yep.
But we're going off the rails here. We came
No.
back to the used salesman thing.
Yeah, we're literally talking about used cars now. Are you kidding me?
Well, is there anything that I missed? Is there anything else that you wanted to chat about?
No, I think when you asked about the mistakes or like what people can do now, I think about, make small steps, right, to try to change your habits. And I think that's no different than your health and fitness. Like if you overwhelm yourself and you say, I'm going to start saving X, you're just probably not going to do it and you're going to shut down. And, I don't know whose quote this is, but I think people tend to overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. And with financial matters of any kind, that's especially true. People think I'll put off doing whatever I'm going to do 5 years from now because my situation will be different. I'll be making more money. I'll have this thing paid off. And so they wait and they wait and they wait. And, there are a lot of cliches with investing, but I mean, the power of time and compounding interest and starting younger with even small amounts makes such a big difference. So just try to commit to small changes. And I think, you'll realize a couple years down the road that it had a really big impact.
So if somebody is at a level where they need some help and they need, some services from you, what would be the best way to get in touch?
Yep. You can either, I don't know if the contact information, well, I guess I read it in the disclosure. You can call that number, but you can go to our website and contact us that way. I'm on LinkedIn. Again, it's Dustin Martin. The website is CincinnatiWealth.com. I'm sorry about the name, the wealth and the
but it tells me what you do.
Yep. And we go there. Basically, how we start with any prospective client is just like a phone call or a Zoom or getting a coffee or something where it's just connection. Like, are we a good fit to work for one another with one another? And it really should be a partnership. We want to make sure that what you're looking for is what we can provide. And, there's no obligation. It's not going to be some high pressure situation. I can assure you of that. So it's just a conversation. And then from there, if we want to move forward, we can start getting into details about where, what your accounts look like and where they are. And point out some things and start to make recommendations. But that comes later. It just starts with an initial conversation.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and having the conversation with
Thanks,
me.
Amanda.
And I'll see you at the gym when Josh is beating your ass.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
AmandaValentineBites.com